Kelly, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Matthew Shaw, and I'm a volunteer with the Coalition for Responsible Data Center Development, a nonprofit based on hyperscale development in the U.S., which produces educational resources for other community groups across the U.S. and around the world. I'm hoping that by discussing your community's concerns, we can learn how people around the world are experiencing data center development, what they're doing to encourage more responsible development, and how to stop irresponsible development. Before we talk about data centers, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the area of Southland, New Zealand, where you're from?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me. It's really cool to make connections with people doing the same thing on the opposite side of the world, and it's good to know that we're not alone here in little old New Zealand. So I'm from Southland, which is at the very bottom of the South Island of New Zealand, and we are predominantly a sort of farming town. We're quite small. But we've got two large data centres coming, which we are sort of fighting. We are predominantly sort of sheep and dairy and beef and stuff down here, and we've got a lot of rivers and a lot of fishing and a lot of seafood. So our environment is very, very important to us down here.
That makes sense. So when did you first hear about this development? It's called Data Grid, is that correct?
Yes. Yep. So the main one, we only sort of really found out about it sort of a week and a half ago. It wasn't so much the data center as it is, there's two of them. Plus, we're also getting a large silicon smelter. So when we add this infrastructure into our existing infrastructure, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. So we found out about the big data center, the Data Grid one, about a week and a half ago, and sort of realised that public consultation wasn't a thing for it, and then found there was a second one, and public consultation also wasn't a thing for that one, which tends to be the standard. There are upwards of 80 planned for New Zealand. We're a very small country, and none of them are following open public consultation processes. Not a single one that I can find. I've been through a lot of paperwork and a lot of stuff, and I can't find open public consultation for a single one in New Zealand.
That's very interesting. And we can get into that more in a second. What phase of development is it at now? So
it has all of its consents. It's all fully consented. The only thing I believe they're waiting on is the sale of space in the data center itself. So
it's fully developed, and now they're looking for people to come use it.
Yes. Yep. So the space is all being leased offshore, and they haven't broken ground yet. I don't plan on letting them get that far. But as far as I can tell, the space is being leased to Google and Microsoft so far. But I believe they still have capacity that they're trying to lease.
Okay. So you just started this maybe a week or two ago. You said,
yes.
You started a Facebook group. What have you been doing to try and get the word out? How successful have you been?
So it would be a week ago we started the Facebook page, and then we decided that we needed legal help, that we couldn't just do this as a group of concerned citizens. So what we've done is we are incorporating a society. So we have a board, and we have a committee, and that gives us legal grounding and legal protections from being picked off individually. So we will take them to court. I plan on taking the Invercargill City Council to the High Court to make them accountable for the decisions in which they've made. if they aren't open to public consultation and they're willing to make backroom deals on our behalf, then they can stand up in court and explain themselves.
You mentioned background deals. Are there NDA concerns in the U.S.? A lot of the times when a developer comes in, they have the city government sign an NDA saying you can't talk about this project and the details with the public. Has that been a factor?
I'm not 100% sure what kind of deals they have signed, but I would imagine there has got to be something, because everybody is very, very tight-lipped and nobody's willing to sort of give any information. I have, we do Official Information Act requests here, similar to what you guys do over there, and we have them in all over the place. And we have got, obviously we're our Indigenous culture, Māori. They are in groups called iwis. That's like their groups. They have got most of the agreements I can see have been done between local iwi groups and the councils, and we're not being consulted in amongst that. It's being signed and sealed, and essentially back rooms that we know nothing about, and it's the concrete's ready to be poured, the ink's dry, everything's good to go before we even know that these things exist. I've got 1% battery.
Sorry. What's the area like around where it's being developed? Is it residential housing? Are there schools? Are there any type of things like that, hospitals?
Wetlands. We have protected wetlands down here. So they're destroying a small wetland for the main one. And there is a lot of infrastructure. There are schools, there are farms, and one of them is going into a residential area right behind our biggest hotel, right beside our racecourse, and close to a rest home. I believe it's either 85 or 58. I can't remember. I'm going to go with 58 because the lower number's always the better. They have 58 industrial generators as backup. We have got hydroelectric dams down here, and the hydroelectric dams power is being prioritised to the data centres, because they've got guaranteed uptime agreements. We've got T4 Group are building the smaller one, and that is a tier 4 data centre, so that's got guaranteed uptime. So they will have, well, the amount of power that they consume off the grid is humongous, absolutely humongous. And from our rough projections, it looks like if they were to go online at the same time as well as a lot of the other data centres in New Zealand, we will have no choice but to burn Chinese coal to put power back on the grid so that everyday electricity users have got access.
Right. So even if the hydropower is going to the data center, you still have the rest of the population who needs to get energy from somewhere. They might be burning fossil fuels to do so.
Yes. Well, our main capital city, Wellington, it's a big place. And the data centre that we've got going in here, the big main one, is going to use as much electricity as the entire city of Wellington, including all of their infrastructure and all of their housing. So one data centre is going to use a whole entire city's worth of power. So yes, it's not insignificant. It's a worry to every New Zealander. Every New Zealander should be really deeply concerned, and we're starting to get the word out. I think everybody thought, oh, they'll come, what, they might not, like, oh, the consents won't go through, don't worry about it, it'll be right, it'll be fine. And before you know it, it's not fine, and this little tiny snowball has become this massive, massive snowball, and I think everybody's a bit scared, and we're all a bit undereducated on exactly what the country has gotten themselves into. And I'm not willing to sit back and let this happen. So our action group is starting to gain a lot of traction. We're starting to get, like, I'm not interested in emotion, and like, I'm about facts and figures and things I can prove. I don't want to speak on something that I can be disproved, because that discredits everything. So very much sticking to facts. But there is a lot of emotion behind it. There is a lot of people are starting to understand what's happening, and a lot of people are starting to question the point of data centers. What are they for? It seems odd that AI would require 80 of them in our small country. So there's not a lot of information out there, not a lot of transparency.
That is very common in the US as well. Can you describe the different players in New Zealand's government, from local to federal, who's been responsible for approving the project being completed, and then once it is completed, who's going to be monitoring it, from emissions to water use and everything in between?
Down here, I'm not doing too much nationwide at the moment. It's because I'm very much in a learning phase, so I'm sticking just to Southland. We do have a wider group that are looking after the whole of New Zealand, and they're organising grassroots groups. The Southland one, I'm a lot more sort of up with what's happening. We've got a governing body down here called Environment Southland, and so they are the ones that are responsible for making sure that everything is as it says it is. We have a mixture of councils, so we have Invercargill City Council, but then we've also got a district council, and because a lot of them are on farmland, they fall under the district council, which means different bylaws and different rules. And I think from what I can tell, it's, if you stir the pot really fast and all the mud comes up from the bottom, nobody can see anything, so everybody just gives up. And I'm not waiting for the mud to settle. I've just put some goggles on and I'm going in, and I'll find clarity where I need it, when I need it. But I cannot allow this to happen to our country. I can't.
Yeah, they try and rush it through and throw smoke screens up. So it's definitely a challenge to get the information from both the government and the company at times.
Yes.
So you're mentioning that this might be increasing use of fossil fuels and other energy needs. Are any of those going to be passed on to ratepayers, just average citizens? And if so, is that going to, in most areas in the US, if let's say they have to build a new transmission line, that just goes on people's bills. It's not separated out. Oh, this is because of the data center. It's just passed on.
Yep. That's pretty much how it's happening here too. We don't have, well, obviously we're such a small country, we don't have the capacity to just chuck up new transmission lines, and we are, as a country, working on, because we've signed up to the Paris Accord and we've signed the net zero agreements, which I cannot find a way that we can have data centers and net zero. I can't. So if we have data centers, we can't achieve net zero, which puts us in a lot of trouble, which is quite difficult. Not that I don't particularly believe in the whole net zero thing, but if I can use it to my advantage, I will. And it's quite scary, the agreements that we have in place with other governing bodies that watch what we do, and they're making sure that our power usage is low and that our carbon footprint is small, and that we're not contributing to further greenhouse gas emissions and all of that lovely stuff. There is no way that we can have both. We can't have data centers and a clean green country. We can't. It's just impossible. And I think people are starting to slowly realise that. And as we build momentum and get smaller fringe groups off for each of their own local areas, we're providing support on how to how to petition your local council, how to write the Official Information Act requests, how to request meetings with your local council, and who to get in front of, and what to say, what local community groups, because we are going at small like community notice board type groups that have got wee committees and things like that, where you can sort of start explaining the actual impact, because as far as we've been told, they're silent. There's no EMF. There's no, like, the wastewater's fine. It's probably not going to use anywhere near the 550 million litres of water that we've consented for, and it's probably not going to use the megawatts of power, but it's probably going to. It's all being very brainwashed.
They want it to run 24/7.
Yeah.
If they're not, they're losing money. So
yes. Yep. So their electricity supply will be guaranteed.
Right. Often, at least in the US, let's say there is some reduction in electricity production. There'll be tiers where, like, hospitals get it first, and then people, and then, companies come after it. You're saying in this agreement, the company is right at the top, along with other essential services.
As far as we can tell, yes. Yep. It does look as though they are being given priority supply of our clean hydro energy. We have a large aluminium smelter down here called Tiwai, and they have agreed that if power levels get below a certain level for data centres, they will shut down one of their production lines. They will shut down one of their production lines completely to prioritise power to the data centre, which means people aren't, homes won't have power, and people will be out of jobs, because if they shut down a pot line at Tiwai, that's people's livelihoods. It's a whole team of subcontractors and contractors that won't have work because there's not the electricity there to run the plant, because the power's being gobbled somewhere else.
Right.
And it all seems very unfair and slightly underhanded that we find all of this information out after the fact. We don't get, they're calling it a non-notified consent process. So they go to the landowner, a neighbour or two, and then local iwi groups, and that's where they're getting their consent from, and by the time we find out about it, it's signed, sealed, and on its way.
So you're planning on launching a lawsuit. In the US, that's very expensive. Our coalition has launched one, and it's all funded by coalition members taking out, like, retirement savings. Do you see a similar thing happening with you guys? Some other places, they will get, say, an environmental group, an NGO that works, has some law practice, and they will have them sue on behalf of the community. Have you looked into that at all?
We have to go to the High Court to get any decisions overturned. It's not going, obviously it's going to be an expensive process. It's not quite, our legal system is a wee bit different. I'd love to just be able to sue the hell out of someone. But we have to do it differently. But we have got, because we are incorporating as a society, that gives us access to a lot of government funding and a lot of local funding. So we will be putting in applications to all of the local environment groups and the local community groups that are set up to look after Southland. And we will be applying to the government to fund our campaign against our own local government.
That's very interesting. I have never heard that in the US before. So I'm interested.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's really cool. There's lots and lots. There's like business innovation funds, and then there's like lots of community and environmental funds that are available to small groups that want to affect change, and they might just be helping us with their own demise. But yeah, we'll fundraise. We will do what we need to do. Everything's been self-funded up until this point. We do have a treasurer on board to help with this sort of thing, and because we're going to have to commission separate environmental studies, we need cumulative impact reports, we need wetland specialist reports. There's a whole bunch that we're going to need to pay for to take us to court. I'm not planning. We're not petitioning. I have started a petition just on the whole of New Zealand, but we're not protesting. We're not getting out in the streets. We're not banging signs and making noise. We are fighting this on a legal level rather than on the street level.
That's interesting. I mean, take our coalition, we can do both, where there's a legal fight and then there are various things where they go door to door, social media, and then having like rallies where in the area there are more than just the Farmington group. So they'll get together, go to the capital, the state capital, for example, meet with local politicians. Have there been any politicians who have reached out to you, either at local or national level, to either support or oppose what you're doing?
It's been crickets so far. There's not been a lot of engagement from local government. We do have an Invercargill City Council meeting on the 23rd of this month that we are attending as a coalition. The whole committee will be there, and we've got a 5-minute spot, and that's it. And there's only certain things we're allowed to speak on, because we have split things across a city council and a district council. So one's approved this and the other's approved that, and so we have to get in front of both of them, as well as smaller local community boards. But yeah, our first meeting as a coalition, and getting out there in front of the council to let them know that we're here, we're loud, we're not going away, and we want answers. Because everybody's got questions, and
right,
we haven't been allowed to ask them, and it's not fair. Like, the whole community deserves to know what's coming to their community, and to just greenwash it all and make it all sound like it's great and it's what's good for the environment. It's not fair.
You mentioned a little while ago that the company says it's a cool climate, so it will help with cooling their data center, their chips, but they will need some sort of coolant.
220 million litres a year.
How is their coolant being processed? Do they have a plan for that?
Apparently the water, once it's been used, will be treated and then discharged back onto local farmland.
Interesting. There
They have
have been some concerns that some coolants have PFAs, forever chemicals.
Yes. Yep.
And sometimes there are NDAs, private information. In the US, environmentalists have been trying to ban PFAs. They kind of got some movement under the previous administration, and now this administration, it's gone back on it. Does New Zealand have strong regulations around what type of contaminants can be released and how they need to be treated?
Yes and no. yes, there are standards, obviously. We're not privy to a lot of them because we don't have a great deal of data centers, or especially ones of the magnitude that are coming here. We don't have other data centers that big as a case study or something to gain information from. So we are very much going into this quite blind. But we do have, there are emission standards. We uphold this clean green New Zealand image, which we're going to hold them to. They get 5,000, the consent of 5,000 litres a day will be discharged back into local farmland. And we plan on, ideally the data centre will never even get up and operational, but if it does, we will be testing the runoff, we will be testing EMF, we will be testing every single thing we can, because you can't tell me there's not going to be noise, because that's what they're telling us, is that it's not going to be noisy. I've watched enough videos of what you guys are dealing with over there to know that that is not accurate. We're concerned, obviously bees, is every country needs more bees, like that's just all there is to it. We're concerned that the vibrations and the EMF are going to change the migration path of local birds, that it's going to push the insect life further away, that it's going to decimate bee colonies. And like we have small bats. There's so much wildlife and flora and fauna that we're putting at risk for progress.
Yeah, I was looking at the size, and they were talking about hectares. And I was trying to think about what that is, and I looked up how many football pitches would there be in terms of hectares. It was about 60. So
yeah,
it's not a small building. It's going to have a lot of runoff, affect migratory patterns. And they were saying, they're going to try and reduce lighting and noise, but there's only so much you can do, and it might be legally acceptable limits, but animals, as you said, might still be affected. If there's these
absolutely.
in the way, if there are these huge buildings in the way, that's going to affect them.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a massive compound. Like it's not insignificant in terms of size. And I understand there's a lot of buildings and there's road infrastructure and stuff that goes into these things. But it's a huge piece of farmland, and it's being replicated all over the country. So it's not just here, and it's not just our wee slice of paradise. It's sort of everywhere, and there's no way that there's not EMF. Like, they can't tell me that EMF is not going to be a problem. Apparently we're putting large dirt banks. I mean, this is the thing, it's all locals have been told this and that and this and that, and it's really hard to get to the bottom of what's actually accurate. But apparently they're building dirt walls around it to soil to try and cut down on the noise. I'm not sure if that's accurate. I'm not sure if that's feasible. But it just stands to reason that, like, okay, the sound might not better go out, so it's probably just going to go up. At the end of the day, sound is but vibration, and it's energy, and it cannot be destroyed by dirt, so it's going to go somewhere.
A lot of coalitions in the U.S., people have said they make for strange bedfellows. So there are people who are far left, far right, in the center. Have you experienced a similar thing in New Zealand? Or is it more, people who vote Green Party are also against data centers, or is it, more of a mix?
It seems to be a real mix. It affects every single human and animal that lives in this country, regardless of political affiliation. I myself don't align with anything politically. I believe they're just all wings of the same bird, and that it's neither here nor there whether it's blue or red. And it's certainly not green. I sit sort of somewhere firmly in the middle. I don't have a political affiliation at all. I just believe that the people should be coming first, and that the country should come first, and that none of this is in the best interests of the people or the country. And it's nobody's standing up, nobody's saying anything. There are small groups getting together, which is fantastic, but we need as many eyes on this as possible. We need as much momentum as possible. And yeah, it's going to be people power.
So you're doing this lawsuit. If you, as a next step, let's say it passes, it fails on a national New Zealand level, would you like to see a moratorium, a ban, sort of regulations? If so, in what areas would you be most focused on?
At the moment, I have a petition for a change to the way in which we do this consenting process. I understand that most large industrial scale works in New Zealand don't go to public consultation, which is fine. But that's one project. This is 80 projects. And I think by saying, oh, they're all privately owned, so they can't be counted as one. So it's all John's project over here and Bill's project here and Fred's project here, but nobody's going John, Bill, and Fred's project combined. And I think that's one of their loopholes. So we have a petition at the moment to remove or to investigate the removal of the non-notified consent process, in which governments cut locals and our voices out of this picture completely, and that's just not fair, and we're petitioning for change.
Okay. Let's say you knew this development, was going to go forward and you can't stop it. What would be one thing you would change about the development, or more than one thing? So, like, it could be like more, have it be smaller, have it use, less electricity, further setback requirements, so it's not so close to residential areas.
I don't think there are any minor changes they could possibly make to the proposed development that would make any of us comfortable with it going ahead regardless. A lot of people at the point where it's like, we've not been asked, our voices haven't mattered, we're flat out anti the whole thing regardless. There's no way, if they could magically say, oh, we've actually found a way of sourcing electricity from this finite pool, this infinite pool that we've found over here, and it's not going to affect anyone, and oh, we've sourced water that doesn't come out of the water table, it's not part of Southland's water, it would still be left with that bad taste in our mouths regarding the underhanded nature in which it feels like it's been done.
Right.
Backroom deals. To me, it's quite convenient that each data center is separately owned, so it's not one conglomerate that can be sort of taken, and it's just, nobody's looking at the cumulative effects of everything, and because it's down to this council's approved this one for this guy and this council's approved this one for this guy, that kind of feels sneaky, and it feels like there is nothing that would make us happy for this data center to go ahead. Absolutely. It's not in our community's best interests. It's not in our country's best interests. It employs 30 people once it's built and done. And I don't for a second believe that they're not going to bring in their own experts for the construction. I don't think they're going to use local companies. They say they will, and that it's all about bringing jobs to Southland. But 30 jobs.
And often those jobs
to host AI.
Often those jobs are like security and janitorial. A lot of the IT work can be done off-site.
Yes, and if we are prioritizing a data center for AI to replace human jobs, then any jobs it creates is negated by the fact that a bunch of people are going to lose their jobs to automation.
Right. And that's brought up in the US, the idea of setting up some sort of sovereign wealth fund to do UBI, universal basic income,
Mm-hmm.
tax the AI. I don't know where that will go, if anywhere, but you know, it's one policy solution that's been talked about here.
That's awesome.
How, I mean, I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but how is the project going to be taxed in New Zealand? Are there any subsidies being given to them, either direct or indirect?
That information we haven't been privy to yet. We have Official Information Act requests in to find out those exact sort of things.
Mhm.
The data centers themselves are all New Zealand owned, technically. Are small New Zealand companies that own them. I'm looking into the structure of these companies, the shareholders and the subsidiary companies the shareholders are shareholders of. I've tried following the science and it got me absolutely nowhere. So now I'm following the money, and that's where I'm finding all the answers.
That makes sense.
Yep.
I mean, in the US, there will be different incentives. Let's say the state has an incentive where they'll reduce the tax on the equipment.
Yep.
So like the local government will get property taxes, but then the state government will lose on the other taxes that they're giving to the company. So I understand you don't know necessarily what those are, but it's something to look into because it's been.
Yes, well, I mean, they'll be paying rates, like Southland District Council rates for the land, but I would imagine it will be minimal, absolutely minimal.
Right. In some parts of the US, there are options for communities to go to the ballot box to vote on it. An example being Monterey Park, California. They recently voted on June 2nd to do a full permanent ban on data centers. Does New Zealand have a similar way for people to petition for it to be on a ballot?
Not at this stage, as far as I know. It's still, the legal side of things is still very much an investigation, and we are still very slowly building our information. This is pretty new for us here. This is the first really big data center that's gotten any kind of publicity. We've got several small data centers that are sort of telco owned, small ones that really sort of are insignificant. This is our first, what are they calling it, AI mega factory, which is, I don't know, it just sounds ridiculous to me. It makes it sound productive, and it's really not. Like, it's a giant server, let's be honest. Like, it's not a dream factory like they're making it out to be. And it's not,
right,
I'm not anti-AI.
You said that the end users might be the hyperscalers, Google, Meta, Amazon, people like that. And
yep.
Yeah, I mean, some of their work may be on, things like health, processing DNA, finding protein folds. But a lot of it is Gen AI prompts and just like storing video surveillance data. Are people concerned about the end users, or is it more the development and the energy concerns, or is it a mix of both?
It's a real good mix of both. I have to be quite careful. I would be, for all intents and purposes, probably considered a raving tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. So I keep my tinfoil hat off as much as I can, because it's a very emotive thing. people either sort of believe that the government wants the best for them and is there to look after them, and then there's the very polar opposite of people that believe that the government is there for its own personal gain and that it will take from the people regardless. So trying to distinguish and have a very clear line between the two, because I don't want to be dismissed as being some off the chain conspiracy theorist, but I have very deep concerns about what these data centers are for. We have cameras going up on, like, you pull up at a traffic light and you've got 20 cameras on you, and each of those cameras have got antennas, and then they've got little boxes that are powering them, and they've got solar panels. And it's like, as this grows exponentially throughout New Zealand, this information has to go somewhere. And I believe that that's a lot of what the space in the data centers is for our own surveillance. And I don't want to be I don't want to sit back and let us help them build our digital prison.
Panopticon. Sorry, I was going to ask something and I forget what it was. Is there anything else you would like to share that we haven't covered?
Just if there is, I don't know, like anybody out there that's got case studies or anything that they can do to help or assist in any way, shape or form, we are so here for it. We understand that we are a small group and we're very new, and our knowledge is very, very at a very, very, very beneath the surface level. There's so much more to learn. There are so many more loopholes and bits and pieces that we need to be aware of. And if anybody's got sort of any information or any way they can help, please do just shout out to us. We have a Facebook page called the Southland Sustainable Resource Coalition. And yeah, just reach out, say hi. And yeah, we're all in this together, whether we're miles apart or next door to each other. We're all humans, we all live on this planet together, and it affects every single one of us. And we all need to come together and just say, we've had enough, and it's not happening.
Thank you very much for have a great rest of your day.
No, thank you very much for your time, Matt. It's been awesome.